Services Group. Thank you very much for joining us, Likhapa.
Thank you very much for hosting us.
Okay. Now, the Minister increased marginal personal income tax by 1 percentage point, and he also tinkered with other taxes here and there. Did he do enough to raise the 12 billion that he needs for fiscal year 2015?
I think we must all admit that Minister Nene, unlike his predecessors, had a very difficult time in putting together this budget because he is right in the middle of a financial crisis which is now 8 years old. And he has tried to sort of put together everything without stifling the economy. That's why he has put in 1% here on our progressive tax system, which means the more you get is the more you pay. So on the higher income levels, it will be much steeper as opposed to the lower income. So he has tried to balance the act between not affecting the poor too much, but at the same time trying to get as much in the kitty as possible. But is it enough? I honestly do not think it's enough, but increasing the budget is a function of increasing both revenue and minimizing the expenditure. So I think he didn't really emphasize a lot on an extravagant expenditure, which we have seen in most of the past budgets, which the previous Minister Manuel and Pravin Gordhan have been trying to cap very much on it. So I think as much as it's good to maximize the revenue, you have to also minimize the expenditure.
Now, one of the things that he spoke to was the budget deficit. Now, that's a metric that the markets look at very closely. It's going to be slightly higher at 3.9% as opposed to 3.6% as he had budgeted in the October midterm budget. But I see that the Rand didn't really massively react adversely to that. What are your thoughts about that?
You must remember the Rand also was affected by the dollar, which has been under pressure following Janet Yellen's speech yesterday, which he indicated that the economy is not going to be growing as fast as people expected in the U.S. So taking a cue from the U.S., we have been very, very marginally up on the currency, because prior to the budget, it was around 11.30 to the dollar, and then it weakened to around 11.40 level. And that is very much a function of the dollar being very much under pressure following the Chairman Yelen's speech yesterday. But I think from our perspective, it is very important to be aware that all those democracy benefits or democracy dividends that we have been having, where everything was hunky-dory after our democracy and everybody was being put in the economy, people were being able to be given houses, and some people were being able to afford houses and afford cars, and people who were previously excluded in the economy were now being brought into the economy. Now that is starting to fade away a little bit. So the reality is coming whereby we are growing now at 1%, 2%, which is very pedestral, and I don't think that kind of economic growth will be able to create jobs which are necessary.
Now, the Minister touched on how important it is for wage increases to be moderate, without directly speaking to the public sector wage talks, which are happening already. How important is it for Treasury to win that particular battle?
It is very important, and as we know, they have always lost that battle, because the unions always pushing for higher than inflation wages growth, which is very inflationary in that term. So it is very important that the unions understand, but it is also very unfair for the employees rather, to be subjected to the inflationary growth. So it is a very tough thing to balance, but I don't think the Treasury will win that one, because otherwise, as we have seen previously, the country will come to a standstill. We don't want another Americanas. We really have to get to a balance whereby maybe we can negotiate all these wages over a 3-year period, knowing that at least for now, we have negotiated something that we can hold on to for the next 36 months, and we can let the country run and give confidence to the foreign investors.
Now, Even before Minister Nene, Pravin Gordhan was talking about shifting our economy to a more productive economy as opposed to a consumption-led economy. And there are protagonists out there who say that the social wage is too high, particularly around our social grants. Now, the minister said that there was a possibility that he would increase social grants further. Some would argue that the country can ill afford that. What's your view on that?
If you look at the entire budget, out of the most of the percentage out of the 770, it goes mainly to education, health, and the social activities. The social activities are very important in a sense that we cannot allow people not to be able to live simply because of high unemployment. As I alluded to earlier, low economic growth translates into very, very high unemployment. So those people need to leave, otherwise our crime rate will also increase because those people have got to feed their stomach somehow. So it is one of those balancing acts whereby, yes, it may not be looking that good to be increasing them, but we really, really need them. And it's a numbers game. Remember, the amount that has been increased is very, very, very marginal. It's just that the number of people who require these social grants have increased, and hence that is required.
Likhapa, thank you very much for your time. That's where we're going to have to leave it. That was Likhapa Seliane. He's Managing Director at Seliane Financial Services Group.